So I want to make a video today to talk about the relationship that Israel has with the RDC and also other companies from South Africa and other countries that are that work in the mineral industry and how they are profiting from this from the explorations in the eastern part of the Congo, and also how other countries or companies from other countries such as China, they are also working in the eastern part of the Congo. There's nothing wrong with this, but it's important to understand how it works, what the dynamics are. So, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, is Africa's mineral-rich heart. Okay, it's the heart of Africa when it comes to mineral resources. It stands at the center of a geopolitical battle for resources that are critical for the global economy, particularly cobalt and copper, which are really essential for electric vehicles, EV batteries, and consumer electronics. Over the years, various foreign powers, including Israel, China, and Western nations, have engaged in a complex web of diplomacy, trade, and exploitation to control these resources that are mainly located in the eastern part of the Congo. So this struggle reflects not only the importance of natural wealth, but also the broader geopolitical dynamics at play across the African continent. And we're talking not just about Congo, but also about other countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, etc. Okay? So Israel specifically has a very controversial role in Africa that not many people know. So Israel has been expanding its diplomatic and economic footprint in the African continent, leading to a very controversial observer status in the African Union, the AU. So this move was met with resistance from several African nations that view Israel's actions towards Palestine as a affront to African solidarity, particularly because of the apartheid accusations against Israel by human rights organizations. And you can think of which country is more against this, which is South Africa. So despite this opposition, Israel's presence on the African continent has been strengthened, really strong. It's been getting stronger ever since. Okay. Mainly with military exports, technological partnerships, and also its involvement in mining ventures across Africa. Okay. So Israel's role in Africa, particularly in resource extraction, connects directly to the continent's mineral wealth, especially in countries like the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, where mineral resource or where there are mineral resources that are vital not only for the local economies but also for global industries, as I told you earlier. Okay, the local economy benefits a lot from this mineral extraction. Okay, and I'll explain to you how and why. So there's quite a lot of silence on how many companies are profiting from this conflict that is taking place in the eastern part of the Congo. Okay, so let's talk about Israel. The relationship between the Israeli diamond industry and Africa's blood diamonds. I don't know if you remember that movie from Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay, this has long been under scrutiny. In the late 1990s, Israel began expanding its influence in Africa through a lot of investment and trade, particularly in diamonds and minerals. There are reports from the UN and human rights organizations that suggest that Israel linked companies have used their presence in diamond producing regions to fuel conflict by bringing local officials and providing arms to militias. Okay, these are reports from the UN. So this shadow network contributes not only to the suffering in Africa, but also to the broader geopolitical struggle, as profits from conflict diamonds are used to finance military operations, which have contributed to the death and displacement of thousands of people in the DRC. And what happened in this year in 2025 is the most recent one. But I say last year, around March, the same thing happened. So the DRC, with its vast mineral resources, has been one of the primary battlegrounds in this global fight for resources. With international players like, as I say, Israel, they've been benefiting from the suffering of Congolese miners and civilians. So the DRC is a huge country, it's massive, and has many untapped minerals, untapped potential, and exploited resources that they haven't been found out yet. Okay? So one of the main places where this exploitation takes place is the Katanga Plateau in southern DRC, which is home to the largest copper mine, which is named the Tenke Fungurume. Okay, sorry. So this mine, which is jointly operated by CMOC Group and Jeka Mines, CMOC is Chinese, Jeka Mines is Congolese. It highlights the enormous potential of the DRC mining sector. So in a strategic move, China-based companies dominate the country's mining industry, controlling over 70% of the cobalt production and investing heavily in the sector. This includes CMOC's control over TFM and Kishanfu Mining, which is Congolese, which play a critical role in global cobalt production. The Chinese are heavily involved here, but there's a difference between how the Chinese do business in Congo and how the Europeans do business in Congo. So China's involvement in the DRC mining sector has been a game changer. Since 2002, Chinese companies have invested over 20 billion in the sector, revitalizing the mining industry with cost-efficient technologies, including infrastructure projects like roads, bridges, which Western investors have never done and have neglected completely. So the Siko Mines project, a joint venture between China Railway Group and Jeka Mines, which is Congolese, is emblematic of the resources for infrastructure model where China exchanged mining rights for vital infrastructure development in the DRC, just like they've done in many African countries. By the way, my dissertation at university or my master's was based on this, the Chino-African relationships. So this model, okay, has allowed China to expand its influence in the DRC, securing long-term access to copper and cobalt reserves. So we give you something, you give us something in exchange. So despite China's dominance, Western nations, including the US and the EU and Israel, have tried to counter this influence by investing in infrastructure and battery supply chains. So in 2022, the US signed a trilateral memorandum with the DRC and Zambia, pledging 30 billions in investment. And in 2023, the EU entered into a strategic partnership with both nations. However, the lack of binding agreements and delays in infrastructure projects, such as the Lobito Corridor Railway, which crosses basically Africa from one side to the other, okay, this suggests that these efforts have yet to make a significant impact. So, the geopolitical influence of Rwanda is also important to consider when it comes to the conflict in Congo and this Lobito corridor I just explained to you as well, because Rwanda is also involved in this project, okay? This project aims to export coltan and many other minerals all over from one side to the other side. So in 2023, Rwanda became the largest exporter of coltan, exporting 2,070 tons of this critical mineral used in electronics and battery production. The key buyers of Rwanda coltan include China, the United States, and several European countries. China, in particular, has developed a technology edge in refining coltan, as has built up significant reserve of this vital resource. The geopolitical importance of coltan cannot be understated, as its role in the global supply chain for technology and clean energy transition has made it indispensable to leading global powers. And obviously, you know, China is leading when it comes to the manufacturing of EV cars. Yeah. So, given Rwanda's strategic importance in the coltan trade, Western nations have been reluctant to antagonize President Paul Kagame and his government, as is happening right now. They don't criticize him, okay? Just the UN, but not specific countries. So Kagame's leadership is pivotal for European and American interest in Africa, especially as the country serves as a counterweight to the growing Chinese and Russian influence on the continent. This is really important to understand. Take Burkina Faso as an example. So for instance, the European Union has invested heavily in Rwanda, committing 40 millions to support Rwanda's military mission in Mozambique, not Zimbabwe, Mozambique, where the Rwandan troops are deployed to protect Total Energy's offshore gas facilities from Islamic rebels. So the EU Global Gateway Program is investing over 900 million in Rwanda and further cements the country's position as a crucial partner for the West in Africa. So as you can see, the Europeans also have many projects in Africa, and Rwanda is one of the main partners when it comes to these projects, at least in the central countries of the countries that are in the center of Africa. Okay, what is the US doing? Meanwhile, the US has also cultivated a strong relationship with Rwanda. Do you know Elon Musk? Okay, has a very important Starlink contract in Rwanda, making the country a key partner for American tech giants. The US sees Rwanda as a strategic ally in its efforts to counter Chinese and Russian influence in Africa. As Rwanda has shown preference for cooperation with Western nations, this has positioned Kagame as an influential figure in the broader geopolitical landscape, with Rwanda becoming a key player in Africa's resource-driven conflicts. Okay, and this is well documented by the UN. Okay, I'm not making this up. Look it up for yourself. Okay, so the DRC is really important when it comes to the supply chain. Let's say the global supply chain of coltan, okay, copper, and other resources. Okay, so because the DRC has a lot of deposits of these two, okay, cobalt and copper, these are pivotal for the global transition to the clean energy. As one of the world's largest suppliers of coltan, a critical component for electric vehicle batteries, the DRC is in prime position to leverage its resources. However, despite holding 70% of the world's cobalt reserves, the country only captures 3% of the value chain related to electric vehicles and batteries, even with all the agreements they have signed up with China. So in response, the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, President Felix Tshisekedi, has advocated for the industrialization of the mining sector, calling for the processing of minerals within the DRC instead of exporting raw materials to other countries and then processing in there. So he has a 5-year plan from is it 5 or 4? I think it's 4, from 2024 to 2028, where he seeks to maximize the socioeconomic benefits of the country's vast natural wealth by focusing on infrastructure, industrialization, and the local processing of its minerals. 2024 is important to get this date because here's where the conflict starts, okay? Let's look at the historical involvement of Rwanda in all of these conflicts, okay, and the mineral trade. So Rwanda doesn't only help with smuggling copper. They also do it with gold. Okay, so historically, the role of Rwanda in the DRC mining sector has been contentious, with ongoing allegations of smuggling and resource exploitation. In a notable 2011 incident, Bosco Ntaganda, a wanted criminal with ties to the Rwandan government, was linked to a gold smuggling operation involving the transfer of 457 kilos of gold and millions of dollars in counterfeit bills. The gold primarily came from Ntaganda's personal mines in Ituri, a region long time to armed conflict and mineral extractions in the DRC. So this scandal highlighted the role of militaries in resources exploitation, where Rwandan-backed forces and Congolese army officers took control of mining areas once occupied by Rwandan Hutu militants. So the smuggling and illegal trade of gold and other minerals became a major source of income for various military factions operating in the region. With Ntaganda allegedly overseeing operations in exchange for gold smuggling profits. So this guy was basically looking after all this. So the involvement of Rwanda-backed forces further complicated the DRC's mining industry, as the gold trade became a tool for financing armed conflicts and deepening regional tensions. Remember, I told you before how Israel was heavily involved in the extraction of many minerals, diamonds, etc., and how this the interest has led to a lot of blood diamond conflicts, right? So this pattern of resource-driven conflict is a long-standing issue in the DRC, where foreign powers, including Rwanda, have been accused of exploiting the country's mineral wealth for their own gain. And this is well documented. So the Kigali government alleged involvement in illegal mining and smuggling operations further underscores the complexities of the DRC's mineral economy, where global powers and regional actors they seek for full control of these resources. And this is exactly what is happening now in 2025. So there is a specific individual from Israel that has been really controversial when it comes to the mining in the eastern part of the Congo. This guy name is Jetler, okay? And this guy Jetler has a connection. There's a connection between Jetler and the battles that are taking place in the eastern part of the Congo for the resources. So at the heart of the DRC resource exploitation is this guy. He's an Israeli billionaire with a strong ties to the country's political elite, okay, in Israel and also in the Congo. So Jetler has played a central role in securing lucrative mining contracts in the DRC, particularly in cobalt, copper, and diamonds. So his connection to the Kabila family, who was the previous Congolese president, this connection has raised serious concerns about corruption, nepotism, and the mismanagement of the country's vast natural wealth. So Jetler's companies have been linked to the transfer of mining assets from the state-run company Jeka Mines, okay, to private ventures at undervalued prices. So this is really, really low prices, often through really opaque deals. No one knew what was going on. Another company, Glencore, who is a multinational commodity trading company, has been among the foreign firms involved in this controversial process, particularly in relation to the Katanga mining region, where Jetler's, his firm was named Ferrum or something like that, okay, or Ferrum Resources. They have secure major stakes in lucrative copper and cobalt operations. This was in the past, okay, this was in the past. So in 2017, the US Treasury Department, they did impose sanctions on Jetler and his companies. They were accusing him of using his relationship with the Congolese government to profit from the country's natural resources at the expense of the Congolese people. This is what the US government said, okay? Now, if it's true or not, America says something, but the intentions are the opposite. So Jetler's activities have long been criticized by international organizations as well, because he was extracting wealth from the DRC's mining sector without investing in local development or contributing to the country's economic growth. A colonial relationship, basically, which the Chinese haven't done. That's the difference between Western countries and the Chinese. So despite these actions, Jetler has continued to exert significant influence over the DRC mining industry through his connections to both Western companies and Chinese investors who are eager to tap into the country's mineral wealth. So the Jetler connection underscores the deep-rooted corruption and resource exploitation that have plagued the DRC's mining sector for decades. While foreign powers, including China and Israel, have benefited from the country's resources, the local population remains impoverished, and the country's sovereignty continues to be undermined by a combination of foreign interference and domestic corruption. So as you can see, the ones that profit the less from all this, they are the local populations. The Chinese come and invest in the country and they build roads, bridges, and infrastructure. The Westerners don't even do that. They just exploit it and they're trying to sell it. They give little money to the Congolese government and they sell it for a high price. But the ones that are affected the most, they are the local population. So the whole world depends on cobalt at this point, okay? There is controversy surrounding mining in the DRC, and this extends beyond Jetler. The country is the world's largest supplier of cobalt, which is a critical material in lithium batteries used in electric vehicles or EVs, mobile phone, laptop, tablets, and headphones, oil and gas industry catalysts, and also car airbags, paint, and chemical products. So with 85% of cobalt production growth between 2020 and 2021, driven by battery demand, the DRC has become the backbone of the EV revolution. Yet more than 60% of Congolese people live on less than £2 per day, with 80% lacking access to electricity and safe drinking water. Okay? As explained before, although the Congo provides the cobalt, it's Rwanda who's selling it in the international market. You see the connection here. So mining is divided into sectors. You have the industrial mining, which is controlled by multinational corporations like Jetler and his companies, often with very poor and not regulated working conditions. And then you have the artisanal or smaller scale mining. Okay, these are people, just individuals, just mine without any formal employment. And they often do it in really dangerous and exploitative conditions. So this is up to 25% of the DRC cobalt is sourced from these artisanal mines. Okay, some of which end up in the industrial supply chain. So these people mine the cobalt, okay, independently, and then they sell it to companies. So these artisans, as they like to call them, these are just normal people that they rely on these small mines for the extraction of coltan to make a living. Okay, and every time the government tries to regulate the industry a bit more, these regulations has an effect on their livelihoods because they depend of these mining activities in order to survive. That's why the president is heavily criticized every time he's trying to reform the industry, bring new laws in order to benefit a bit more from it. But the local population, as they rely so much on this, often they're the first one that complain about these actions because there's not any other industry that can use to sustain their lives. Okay, so let's go back to Israel. Um, so Israel influence in the DRC is growing. As you know, Israel recently make it publicly, and they say that they completely support Rwanda on this. And there are many ties between Rwanda and Israel. These two countries have some historical similarities. Both of them experienced Israel didn't experience it, but people that settle in Israel, these settlers, they came from European countries where they experienced the G crime, like Germany, for example, and other countries where they didn't like them. In France, pretty much in every European country, they didn't like the Jews. And then you have Rwanda. In the 90s, they have this G crime event as well. So the two of them have the G crime. The two of them use this as a way to understand each other. Okay. And this is one of the similarities. Not only that, they have very strong economic ties. There are many students for Rwanda that they travel to Israel to study agriculture and to be trained military as well. And Rwanda is also a recipient, is a recipient of Israeli aid, and they also buy quite a lot of weapons from Israel. So as Israel continues to expand its diplomatic and economic ties with the African nations, including the DRC, the global battle for resources intensifies. I'm not just saying Israel is the main source of problems here, okay? There are many other actors, but it's important to highlight the role of Israel in this. There are many Israeli nationals in the Congo exploiting the natural wealth, as there are many South African companies in the Congo exploiting the natural wealth. So recently, when you saw the death of 7 South African soldiers, many South Africans asked themselves, what are we doing in the Congo? Many don't understand that South Africa has an economic interest in the Congo because many of the mining companies, which are expert basically, they know exactly the industry and how to extract the minerals. Okay, they have an economic interest in the Congo, which they have to defend as well. And then you have the Chinese, and then you have the Americans, and then you have other countries as well. So as you can see, there are many countries, just like in the past, where King Leopold was in control of the Congo. Okay, there was a signed agreement between enemy parties from European powers, and they agreed that the Congo is going to be a free trading area where there won't be any conflicts, and they will all be able to exploit it. And then Belgium was put as the administrator of that colony. So today, although the Congo is independent, there's something similar taking place here, where you have companies from different countries basically exploiting the resources, okay? And they're not getting directly into wars, but what is happening today in the eastern part of the Congo, where you have Rwanda supporting the M23 and other rebel factions, is part of this. The M23 is not financed direct only by Rwanda. There are more countries that are involved in this, okay? So Israel influence is growing, okay? And they have been supporting many authoritarian regimes in Africa. And the role in the extraction of resources is also increasing. Military exports, technology partnerships, all these raises questions about the long-term effects on the continent's stability and also sovereignty from different countries. So in the DRC, for example, where resources such as cobalt and copper are increasingly being exploited by foreign powers, questions persist about who truly benefits from the country's natural wealth. So I'm just going to conclude on this because, sorry, it's too much what I spit out to you today. I just wanted to clarify the role of the Western powers, the Chinese, and also Israelis and other nations that they're not only looking to exploit the Congo's mineral resources, they're also looking at exploiting the Congo um, other natural resources such as timber, such as the water of the Congo. Is the UAE, for example, they have bought or they're planning to buy a portion of the Congo River in order to secure a source of water, basically. Okay, so you see here where you have the president of Congo getting many offers from different countries, accepting different offers, while some of these countries they have other geopolitical interests in mind, and they are playing a role when it comes to the conflicts within the Congo. In terms of this, you have the Chinese interest, the Russian interest, and then you have the Western interest, and these two are colliding when it comes to interest. Just like they're doing in Ukraine, they're also doing it in the Congo. Then you have a nation like Rwanda, for example, which plays a similar role that Israel plays in the Middle East, where it's basically a nation that somehow destabilize the region because every now and then they create new conflicts, and these conflicts, like in Gaza, like the occupation of southern Syria, okay, these conflicts, who are they helping? What is the actual purpose if it's not destabilization? The same with Rwanda, their role in Mozambique, their role in the eastern part of Congo and other countries where they're not really helping, but they are destabilizing. And you have the head of the states giving out interviews and making contradictory statements or silly statements, like Kagame did when he said he doesn't know if there are Rwandan troops in the Congo. So the geopolitical dynamics surrounding the DRC resource reveal the complex ways in which foreign powers, especially Israel, China, and Western nations, are trying to get control of the continent's mineral wealth. The Jarta connection, the Rwandan role in the coltan trade, and the influence of foreign powers all highlight the need for greater accountability, transparency, and sustainable development in Africa's mining sector. So until these issues are not addressed, Africa's resources will continue to be source of conflict and exploitation rather than a tool for economic growth and prosperity for the Congo, for example, just like we're seeing in Burkina Faso today. Okay. So there are many countries in Africa now that they're rethinking their relationship with Western countries. Because now the unipolar world, where the US was the main power, is ending. And now you have a multipolar world where you have different countries exercising power in their own regions and expanding this power and influence to other regions, mainly in the African continent. So these countries have found a way to get rid of the old colonial powers that through neocolonialism, through neoliberalism, they continue exploiting their countries by relying on, for example, Russian security support and by relying on China's economic support in order to get rid of these European powers that have presence in the country and start working in the development of their own industries. Instead of exporting their own natural resources in order to refine them in other countries, they want to start refining them now. Burkina Faso started with their own gold. They extract the gold and basically they do the gold bars and they sell them in the international market without relying on third parties to do it on their behalf and making a killing out of it and then gain absolutely nothing. They gain at least They gain way more when it comes to the selling of gold. So imagine if Congo did that with the cobalt or with the diamonds or with all the mineral resources that have been exploited by foreign companies. Imagine that if the Congo was able to refine these resources, regularize the sector, provide jobs for the population, put some kind of controls over the industry, and being able themselves to sell these mineral resources in the international market, they will be able to make a killing out of this, just like Saudi Arabia makes a killing out of sending oil in the international market. They have OPEC, OPEC Plus, and other organizations that help them to regulate the price of this natural resource. So Congo could be going through the same path. However, this will create a conflict with the interests of many countries that have an interest in the Congo and the mineral resources. And this is exactly what we're seeing now. And this is exactly what happened during the 60s, where Patrice Lumumba became the prime minister of the Congo, okay? And he was brutally killed, sold by his own Congolese brothers and sisters. Mobutu, he was his comrade when he came to a revolution, and then he gave them up. He watched how they tortured this individual in front of him. And then later on, the Western intelligence agencies, they killed him in the worst way possible. They just make him feel the pain for his actions in the Democratic Republic of the Congo after independence. He was thinking about the future of the Congolese people. He was thinking uh, with a national. He had a national intent in his mind, which was the minerals from the Congo is for the Congolese. And he did within his speech, he criticized the role of Belgium and the king in Belgium, okay, which led to the death of millions of Congolese people. This obviously led to his death during those times, okay, and they blame it on him approaching the Soviet Union or whatever. But he was a nationalist. He wasn't necessarily a communist. He was a nationalist, and he's the one that said that in the future, the kids, the sons of Africa, will be the ones writing the history of Africa. And this is what we could be seeing today. We need young leaders like the ones we've seen in Burkina Faso. Okay, we need young leaders with young minds, people that have analyzed the whole situation, how everything works, and being able to think strategically in order to first secure the country, secondly, sign contract with the specific countries that have the interests of that country in mind. Always exchanging. You can't get things for free. That period is done. Now you got resources, you gotta sell them in exchange of something. Build infrastructure and also fight the threat that other countries are bringing into your country. Sign contracts with countries that are able to provide you, supply you with military hardware in order to counter what is to come. Whether it is the rebels in the north region of Mali, uh, or whether it is the M23 in the eastern part of the Congo. It's exactly the same dynamics that these organizations and countries follow in order to destabilize a country. The Congo is huge, so it's difficult to control the eastern side of the Congo when the administrative capital of the Congo is on the opposite side. However, there's always a way to get out of this. Always a way. I hope you like this, and as always, I'll continue informing you.